It was past midnight. I remember the clock glowing 12:46 a.m. when I felt the mattress shift. I was half asleep, curled on my side, buried under the covers, when I realized someone had just climbed into my bed. I turned slowly. It was Liam, my best friend since high school. He didn't say anything at first. Just pulled the blanket up, laid next to me, closer than he'd ever been, his body warm against my back, breath steady, but nervous. I whispered, "What are you doing?" His voice was quiet, barely above a breath. "I had a dream about you." I froze. Before I could respond, he added. It felt real. I didn't want it to end. My heart stopped. I turned to face him, the moonlight catching the hesitation in his eyes. And then he whispered something so soft, so impossible, that it changed everything between us forever. "If I told you I loved you, would that ruin everything?" That night, he didn't ask for space in my bed. He asked for space in my heart. And I didn't know if I was ready to give it. My name is Ryan. I'm 22 years old, and I've been best friends with Liam for almost 7 years. We met in sophomore year of high school. He was the guy everyone liked, funny, outgoing, star soccer player. And me? I was the quiet kid who kept to the back row and drew comics in the margins of his notebooks. I never thought we'd become friends. But one afternoon, we got paired up for a group project, and something clicked. Since then, we've been inseparable. Sleepovers. Arcade nights. Camping trips. Inside jokes no one else gets. People used to say we were basically married. We'd laugh it off. But deep down, I hated how much it felt true, and how much I wanted it to be. You see, somewhere along the way, I fell for him. And I don't know exactly when it happened. Maybe it was the night he stood outside my house in the rain just to talk. Maybe it was the way he always made sure I felt seen in rooms where I tried to disappear. Or maybe, it was just him. All of him. But I never told him. Because I didn't want to lose him. And I was sure he'd never feel the same. Still, over the last few months, something started to shift. He began staying over more, even when he didn't need to. He'd sit closer. Hold eye contact longer. And sometimes, he'd just look at me like he was searching for something he didn't know how to ask for. One night, we were walking home from a late-night diner run. The streets were empty, and the only sound was the soft hum of the city at rest. And out of nowhere, he said, "I don't think I could ever lose you. You're the only thing that's always made sense." I wanted to ask what he meant. But I didn't. Because part of me was terrified he'd say it didn't mean anything, that it was just something you say to your best friend. But another part of me hoped it meant everything. I kept waiting for him to say it. But maybe he was waiting for me too. After that night on the street, I couldn't stop thinking about what Liam had said. "You're the only thing that's always made sense." It looped in my head like a line from a song I couldn't forget. But he didn't bring it up again. The next few days were strange. He didn't act different, not exactly. Still teased me about my bad coffee. Still beat me at Mario Kart. Still left his hoodie on my desk accidentally. But there were moments. Small ones. Moments where I caught him watching me. When I laughed too hard at something dumb, and he didn't laugh, he just stared. Like he was memorizing the way my face looked when I was happy. And then there were the almosts. The times our hands brushed, and neither of us moved. The times he leaned in to say something and stopped an inch from my face, like he forgot what words were. One night, he stayed over, like usual. We were watching something, both half asleep on the couch. He shifted closer. Our legs touched. Then he whispered, "You always smell like warm mornings." I smiled. "What?" He didn't explain. Just said, "Don't change it." I didn't know what that meant. But I couldn't stop smiling for an hour after he left. That's when the confusion started to hurt. Because I didn't know if he was teasing me, or asking me to see him differently. I didn't know if I should lean in, or stay still. And I didn't know which would break me more, losing him, or never knowing how he really felt. So, I pulled back. I started responding to texts slower. I said I was tired when he asked to hang out. I stopped looking at him too long when he wasn't paying attention. And the worst part? He noticed. He sent me a message one night. "You feel far away. Did I do something?" I typed out a response, 5 times. Erased it each time. Then I said, "No, just tired lately." He replied with a single word. "Okay." But I could feel the heaviness behind it. We finally saw each other again that weekend. Sat across from each other at our favorite coffee spot. But we didn't laugh the way we used to. There were no inside jokes. No casual touches. No ease. Just this tight space between us filled with everything neither of us had said. He stirred his coffee too long. I picked at the sleeve of my hoodie. Then, after a long silence, he said, "I miss when we used to talk without filters." I looked up. His eyes weren't angry. They were just hurt. And I didn't know what to say. Because the truth is, I missed it too. I was so scared of hearing what he really felt that I didn't realize I'd already broken what we had. The rain had started just after 10 p.m. It wasn't heavy. Just that soft, constant tapping against the windows that makes everything feel slower, softer, closer. Liam had texted earlier. "Mind if I crash at yours tonight? My place feels too quiet." I typed back one word. "Yeah." I wanted to say more. I wanted to ask why his place felt quiet. But part of me already knew. When he arrived, his hoodie was damp, his curls sticking to his forehead. He smiled when he saw me but said nothing. Just kicked off his shoes and sat on the floor, leaning back against the couch like he'd always belonged there. We didn't turn on the TV. We didn't need to. The silence wasn't awkward, not at first. We sat there for a long time, legs stretched out, not touching, but close enough that one small shift would change everything. Then, without warning, the lights flickered and went out. He looked at me. Power's gone. I grabbed a candle from the kitchen drawer. The flame lit up his face, soft shadows dancing across his cheeks. He looked beautiful. Not loud. Not confident. Just human. He moved to sit beside me on the couch this time. We didn't talk. We just listened to the storm outside, our breathing filling the space between thunder and silence. Then his hand brushed mine. At first, I thought it was accidental. But he didn't move it. His fingers grazed my knuckles, slow, unsure, and then they laced between mine. I didn't move. I couldn't. My chest tightened, and everything inside me screamed to ask what he was doing, what this meant. But the warmth of his hand in mine quieted all of that. His thumb rubbed gently across my skin, again and again. We sat like that, for minutes. The only light in the room was flickering. The only sound was the rain. And then, quietly, like he was afraid to let it out, he said, "I've been thinking about what it'd be like, if we were something more." I turned to face him. Our faces were inches apart. His eyes didn't leave mine. But before I could say anything, before I could breathe the feelings I had buried for years, he looked away, pulled his hand back, stood up. "Sorry," he whispered. "Just tired thoughts." He turned toward the hallway, away from the couch, away from me, and disappeared into my room. Left me sitting there in the dark. Alone. But not the same. Because now I knew. He had thought about it. And even if it scared him, he felt it too. He let go like it was nothing. But I held on like it was everything. After that night, things changed. Not all at once. Not in ways you'd notice from the outside. But something inside him pulled away. Liam stopped staying over. No more late-night texts. No more laughing till our stomachs hurt. The silence wasn't loud, it was just empty. He didn't explain why. And I didn't ask. Because how do you ask your best friend why they held your hand like it meant something, and then acted like it didn't? I started noticing the absence more than I'd ever noticed his presence. The hoodie he used to leave on my couch stayed folded in my drawer. I'd stare at it sometimes, wondering if I was losing my mind, or if I had ever mattered to him at all. I'd replay that night again and again. The power outage. The candlelight. The way his thumb moved across my knuckles like it had always belonged there. And most of all, the words. I've been thinking about what it'd be like, if we were something more. He'd said it so softly, like he was afraid of it. And then he backed away like he regretted it instantly. Was it just a moment of weakness? A passing thought? Or was it something real he was too scared to face? I saw him around campus. Smiling. Laughing. Surrounded by people who had no idea how much he was breaking me, without even touching me. Every time I saw him, my chest tightened. Like I was watching a stranger in someone else's skin. He looked fine. Perfect, even. But I knew better. I knew Liam. And I knew when he was hiding. Still, he didn't reach out. And I didn't either. I tried to erase him. I deleted our photos. Stopped listening to the playlist he made for my birthday. Even put away the sketch I'd started of him, the one I never let him see. But no matter how much I tried to remove him from my life, I couldn't get him out of my heart. Then one night, it rained again. The kind of rain that reminded me of the night everything almost changed. I was alone in the apartment. Hoodie on. Tea in hand. The air felt heavier than usual. And then, 3 soft knocks on the door. When I opened it, he was there. Soaked. Shaking. Like he'd run through the city just to find me. He didn't say hi. Didn't smile. Just stared at me like he'd been holding his breath since he left. Then he whispered, barely audible. I don't know what I'm doing. I just know I couldn't stay away. And in that moment, I didn't know whether to let him back in, or protect the parts of me he'd already broken. He stood there, in the doorway. Soaked. Silent. Breathing like he'd run a mile just to make it here. And maybe he had. Liam looked at me with those eyes, the ones that always held 100 things he didn't know how to say. But tonight, he didn't look away. I stepped aside without a word. He walked in, slowly, like he wasn't sure he still had permission to. His hoodie clung to his body. Rain dripped onto the floor. He didn't speak. Didn't sit. Just stood there in the middle of my living room, like he couldn't make himself move forward or back. I'm sorry, he finally said. I shouldn't have left like that. I nodded, barely. He looked up. I meant what I said, that night. I wasn't just tired. I wasn't confused. He took a shaky breath. I've been fighting it for so long, trying to convince myself that what I feel for you is just friendship. That it'll go away. His voice cracked. But it never does. And the more I pull away, the more I miss you. I stayed quiet. Because I needed to be sure this wasn't guilt. Or loneliness. Or fear. I needed it to be real. He took a small step closer. I don't know what I'm doing, he whispered again. But when I'm with you, it feels right. I feel like myself. My throat tightened. And then I said it, softly. So stop running. He blinked. Just stop, I continued. If you're scared, fine. I am too. But stop running from the one person who would never hurt you. There was a pause. A long, fragile pause. Then he crossed the space between us, quick, like if he didn't do it now, he never would. And he hugged me. Hard. Like he'd been aching to for weeks. Like letting go would destroy him. My arms wrapped around him automatically. And for the first time, I felt him exhale. Not physically. Emotionally. He was tired of pretending too. We stood like that for minutes. Maybe longer. I didn't ask for a label. He didn't make a promise. But something shifted. We weren't stuck in the almost anymore. We had taken one real, terrifying, beautiful step forward. He didn't kiss me that night. But he stopped running. And sometimes, that's how real love starts. We didn't move for a long time. His arms around me. My face buried into his shoulder. And outside, the rain kept falling, like the world was finally quiet enough to let us breathe. When we pulled apart, neither of us spoke right away. He looked at me, and smiled. It wasn't confident. Or perfect. Or polished. It was scared. Soft. Real. He sat down on the edge of my bed, ran a hand through his damp hair, and said, I thought if I ignored it long enough, it would go away. I sat next to him. Close. Not touching. Just there. What exactly were you trying to ignore? I asked, barely above a whisper. He didn't look at me. Everything, he said. How I felt around you. How I kept catching myself thinking about you at the wrong times. How I looked for you in every crowd, even when I told myself not to. My heart thudded. I didn't want to ruin what we had, he continued. Because you were the only thing in my life that ever felt stable. Your home, Ryan. That word, home, undid something inside me. He turned his head slowly. Every time I pulled away, I was trying to protect what we had. But I was also hurting both of us. I nodded. I know, I said. I didn't know if you felt anything. I smiled, tears stinging at the corner of my eyes. Liam, I've loved you for years. He looked at me then, really looked. And something cracked wide open between us. He reached for my hand. I met him halfway. His fingers curled between mine like they'd been waiting forever. And then, without a word, he leaned in. And kissed me. It wasn't fast. It wasn't hungry. It was slow. Intentional. Like we were telling each other a secret no one else was allowed to hear. His hand moved to my jaw, holding me like I was fragile and sacred at the same time. When we finally pulled apart, he rested his forehead against mine and whispered, I don't want to be confused anymore. You're not, I said. You're here. With me. He nodded. We laid back on the bed, tangled in each other, the kind of silence between us that finally felt safe. No overthinking. No pretending. No more almost. We didn't talk about what it meant. We didn't make promises we couldn't keep. But for the first time, we just let ourselves be. And that was enough. That night, we didn't define it. We didn't label it. We just finally stopped pretending we didn't feel it. The morning after felt different. Not dramatic. Not like a movie. Just calm. I woke up to the sound of light rain still tapping against the windows. But this time, there was warmth behind me. Liam's arm was around my waist. His breath soft against the back of my neck. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I had to hold anything in. I turned slowly. He was already awake. "Hi," he whispered. "Hi." No awkwardness. No apology. Just two best friends, finally being honest. He looked at me for a long time. Then said, "I didn't sleep much. Kept thinking it was a dream." I smiled. "It's not." He leaned in. Kissed my forehead. "Good." Later, we made coffee together. He danced in the kitchen while the kettle boiled, same goofy moves he always did. Only now, I kissed him on the cheek when he did it. And he let me. We didn't rush to explain it to anyone. We didn't update our relationship status or post anything online. We just lived. Quietly. Together. He stayed over more often, until he just never left. We started making dinner together. Woke up tangled in each other. And the world around us kept moving? But inside these four walls, we built something new. Something that had always been there, waiting. Something we were finally brave enough to reach for. I still remember one night, a few weeks later. We were lying on the floor, looking at the ceiling, sharing a blanket like we used to in high school. And he said, out of nowhere, "You've always been my favorite place to come back to." That line? It stuck with me. Because he didn't just come back to my apartment. He came back to me. The version of him who could be soft. The version of me who didn't have to hide. And together, we built something real. Sometimes, love doesn't arrive loudly. Sometimes it climbs quietly into your bed at midnight, and asks for a space in your heart. Tell me in the comments, what would you do if your best friend whispered something that changed everything?